They are more than half the human race, yet for millions of women, the dream of equality is far from real. To mark Valentine's Day, the 1 Billion Rising campaign has held events across the globe and in the United Kingdom, gone to Parliament calling for action to end violence against women. They're also asking the government to make relationship education part of the school curriculum.
Claire Parish, 37. Barbara Yates, 49.
Those just two names from a list of 109, the women killed by their partner or former partner in the United Kingdom in 2012, and for each victim, a balloon.
We're here to raise awareness for 1 Billion Rising, to complain about the violence that there is against women all over the world.
We're here today because we want the violence to end. We're here today because we don't think you can argue with the concept of this movement, and we're here today because we want sex and relationship education to be compulsory for everyone.
Rising!
But what's this? Not just any man, but the Conservative MP Bernard Jenkins.
It's International Men's Day for 364 days of the year, and we need to raise the profile of this and recognise, for example, that the poor musician who committed suicide last week was a victim of a judicial system that's largely run by men that doesn't instinctively understand all these problems.
And the protesters in London were not alone. They were part of a global protest to mark the 1 Billion Rising campaign, started by playwright and activist Eve Ensler to end violence against women worldwide. They danced too in India, a key spur to this campaign since the horrific gang rape and killing of a student on a New Delhi bus in December. In Kabul, they marched.
No more violence! No more violence!
And in La Paz, Bolivia, too. In Kathmandu, they took to the streets, and in Manila, with exuberance. Today's arms in the air, reflecting the great feminist Gloria Steinem's iconic gesture. She was fighting the Women's Liberation Campaign 4 decades ago and is in London to support this campaign. She believes there is a long way to go. Gloria Steinem, what happened to feminism? I mean, of course, there are still plenty of people who call themselves feminists, but was there a pause, or was there actually a failure that led, in a sense, to still having to come to this reckoning today?
No, this is part of a huge and growing movement that has always been global, but now is much more visibly so. I don't think anyone who has watched your very good reports this evening can fail to understand that the women's movement is still necessary, more alive than ever. Every public opinion poll in my country, in your country, shows that. But of course, we're attempting to cure a basic problem, which is the desire of various patriarchal systems to control, often with violence, women as the means of reproduction, and therefore to control reproduction. It hasn't always been true in human history, but it's been true for a very long time, and it goes very deep.
But your movement was able to empower women, but it doesn't
No, it hasn't empowered women.
Well, to some extent it has, because they found a voice. And I want to put it to you that it's men that you needed to change, and you haven't managed to do that.
No, actually, I'm here to make you feel better about change because, because actually, for instance, in our recent election of President Obama, more than half of the women who voted for him self-identified as feminists, and 30% of the men also self-identified as feminists. So, Equality Now, which is a great global human rights, women's rights organization, is supported by both women and men.
One of the issues, though, is how you change what is an expanding industry of pornography, sexualization of women and men to some extent, which is actually, if anything, worse now than it was when you started your campaigns in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, it's now much more public because of technology. I mean, you can get it in your home in a way that wasn't, it was present, it was underground, always. And we, I think, have successfully made the distinction between rape and sex. We understand that rape is about violence, not about sex. We have not successfully explained that pornography is not erotica. Porne means female slavery. It's about domination. And erotica, which is about mutual choice, love, pleasure, sexuality, is quite different.
Well, I don't want to show you page 3 of a Murdoch newspaper here called The Sun, which is,
it's all right. We have
read
him,
by about...
I have him in my country.
Well, I know you do, but this is read by millions of people.
Yeah.
And every day it has a naked woman on the front, or half naked at least, and in a most exploitative manner. It's not pornography, but it is exploitation. What do you say to that?
It's unequal. I mean, you know, if there were a naked man, it would at least be equal, you know. So
it wouldn't be very interesting either to men or women, would it?
Yes, of course it would. Please. I mean, if we're all human, or it would be equally uninteresting or interesting, I don't know.
Well, then do you not object to page 3,
But the problem is that women's bodies are treated as ornaments, not instruments. Instead of what we can do, sports has actually helped a great deal to change that, and women being in the paid labor force and all kinds of physical jobs has helped to change that. But the ornament idea, you know, that that's all women's bodies are, is part of the problem. And they're always women's bodies of reproductive age. It comes back to trying to control reproduction.
What do you do when it comes to religion and to the effect that some religions have on women's rights and their inequality, you could argue, particularly in the Islamic world, but in many places in Africa beyond that sort of religion?
I think in general women are doing two things. They're either inside those religions trying to argue from within them, because frequently the originators of that religion, like Muhammad or like Jesus, were really much nicer guys than you know, anybody has said, and what they said is often quite different from what is being attributed to them. Or they are outside trying to say, look, you know, if God is man, man is God, so monotheism itself is the problem. I mean, God is present in all living things, in all human beings and in all living things, and that was the original system or belief for 95% of human history.
But God is a male figure.
No.
Well, we talk about him, don't we?
No, I don't. And many people don't. You know, but you know, it depends.
I bet in religious education in both our countries you'd find God described to children as
yes,
him.
I'm sure you would, but you'd also find a lot of people. For instance, there was a wonderful Catholic priest in Minneapolis, in my country, Father Harvey Egan, a Catholic priest who prayed to God the Mother as kind of balance for you know, all these centuries of praying only to God. You'll find a lot of people who are trying to address spirituality and who well understand that religion is often politics you can't talk about.
Gloria Steinem, thank you very much for talking with us.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.